Welcome back. All right, WrestleMania 8 is on the board today. We had 9 matches in WrestleMania 8, and the Royal Rumble led up to WrestleMania 8. And we start seeing the fallout from the Royal Rumble having an effect on WrestleMania, which is, of course, a thing that exists until this day. So the Royal Rumble had stakes where the winner of the Royal Rumble gets the vacant WWF title, and that went to Ric Flair, who eliminated Sid Justice last. There was this big back and forth of Sid Justice, Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan, and rather than getting Hogan versus Flair for the title at Mania, which was what they initially had said they would do, we get Savage versus Flair instead and Hogan against Sid. And there's a lot of backstage stuff and all that. It's all, yeah. I think it would have been a better WrestleMania if it was Hogan versus Flair. Eventually, WCW gets that match, and then they ran it into the ground. But WrestleMania 8, an interesting event. Some longer matches. The wrestling matches definitely starting to get more time to tell their story, and it cuts down on how many matches you can have. There was one match that was planned for this, which was actually pushed off the show. So, it does happen, and it happened in this case. So it takes 10 minutes and 38 seconds for Shawn Michaels to defeat Tito Santana. Shawn Michaels is in his boy toy phase with Scary Sherry Martel as his manager, and it worked. Michaels' heel turn just absolutely catapulted him to the most hated wrestler in the company pretty quickly, and he would ride that wave of discontent and dislike, as well as the ladies fawning over him, which they did, to basically make his way up the card. But the win over Tito Santana, Santana at this point a veteran, willing to put other guys over, and that's what the veterans should be doing. 6 minutes and 36 seconds is what it takes for The Undertaker to defeat Jake the Snake Roberts. Great match, as I remember it. And Undertaker, this is where we're in that stage now where Undertaker just wins every year at Mania, but it wasn't talked about then. It's not like, oh, this guy's 1-0, is he going to go 2-0? So, yeah, Jake the Snake Roberts loses to Undertaker there. And Undertaker, we know, is going to be a major force in WWF. He's going to basically push his way in there. And he's got such a cool entrance and such a unique look and a unique character that he is going to be a prominent wrestler for a long time in WWF. 13 minutes and 51 seconds is what it takes for Bret Hart to defeat Roddy Piper for the Intercontinental title. Love this match. Very happy with this match. So when I'm watching hockey games, I'm usually pretty happy when teams that I root for are against one another. I can just enjoy it and not care who wins. And when Bret Hart fought Roddy Piper, they were both faces, and I felt that way about them. I didn't care who won. I was very excited that Bret Hart was finally getting a chance. So Shawn Michaels breaks away from the Rockers. Bret Hart moves on from the Hart Foundation. And both wrestlers start having that success that they would have, and eventually they do cross paths, and things get ugly from there. But one thing I will always say with Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart, no matter how tough things were outside the ring between them, no matter how much they might have personally had problems with one another, they were 100% professional when it came to the wrestling side of things. The modern day equivalent to that would be Seth Rollins and CM Punk. No matter whatever's gone on behind the scenes, and no matter what Seth actually thinks about Punk, or Punk actually thinks about Seth, it does not have an effect on their matches. 6 minutes and 33 seconds for this kind of forgettable match. Big Boss Man Sergeant Slaughter, who quickly, after losing at the last Mania, becomes a face again because he loves his country again. Jim Duggan and Virgil. There's an 8-man tag for you. They defeated the Mountie, the Nasty Boys, and Repo Man. So, who I think Simon Miller's made Repo Man more famous now than he was back then. But at any rate, yeah, that's your 8-man tag match. The Mountie had been Intercontinental Champion until the Rumble. He would lose that belt against Piper. I think part of the reason he lost the belt may very well have been because Canadian TV said the Mountie is not allowed on Canadian TV. But yeah, so that's what happens there. And it's an 8-man tag match that just doesn't really do much. But keep in mind that when you see these big matches like this, it is Vince's way of making sure wrestlers get a WrestleMania payday, because WrestleMania is the big one. So you get your WrestleMania payday if you're on the card. And then 18 minutes and 4 seconds, a match that should have been the main event, and I will never understand why this was not the main event. I don't care. I know people are going to say Hogan was a bigger draw, but this is for the world title. And it's in the middle of the event. 18 minutes and 4 seconds, Randy Savage defeats Ric Flair for the WWF title. So I have no idea why that's in the middle of the event, and I don't really care. It's your world title; it should be at the top of the card, which CM Punk would talk a lot about when he was champion. But it happened with Brett too. There were times where Brett would be defending the world title, and it would be in the middle of the card. So people will complain about how a guy may not be a huge draw, and I heard that about Hart. You would hear that at times about Michaels and various others. But if you don't make it seem like the world title is the most important match of the night, fans notice. Fans notice, like, all right, so the biggest deal right now is not these guys. So Savage wins the title, and that was kind of that. 4 minutes and 33 seconds for Tatanka to defeat the model, Rick Martel. I believe this is during Tatanka's winning streak, which he would keep going until I think it was Ludwig Borga that took him out. I watched the Ludwig Borga episode of Dark Side of the Ring. If you haven't seen that one, it's bonkers. Even by Dark Side of the Ring's standards. That one's kind of crazy. But yeah, Tatanka beats Rick Martel. And Tatanka can still go. Like, Tatanka, as we're talking right now in 2025, he can still wrestle. He still looks good when he does too. So all the best to him on staying in shape when other wrestlers don't. So yeah, Tatanka defeats Rick Martel in that one. 8 minutes and 38 seconds for the Natural Disasters to defeat Money Inc. by countout. So Money Inc. abandons the match, which is anticlimactic. I remember them leaving and thinking to myself, so why don't champions just do that? Why don't bad guy champions just get into a match against a good guy and they go, I can't beat him. All right, I'll take my belt and leave. And there you go. They keep their title because they lost by a countout. That's not a way you can win the title. So there have been times where you'll see a title match where you're not allowed to get counted out if you're the champ, or you will lose the title. I think that should get used a little bit more. I think it would add more jeopardy, and it would definitely make it so that the heel's not likely to try to leave, and it does change the feel of the match. So the Natural Disasters win the match. They do not win the titles. Apparently Legion of Doom was supposed to have this spot, but Hawk wasn't currently... I think he was suspended at the time. Either way, the Natural Disasters win there. Then a minute and 36 seconds for Owen Hart to defeat Skinner. So, it's a match that happened. I could talk about how I think Owen could be used better, but that's a storyline that I've already talked about with the whole Blue Blazer thing. At least now he's Owen Hart. He's still a face. Owen Hart made a pretty decent face, although I didn't think he got the kind of push that he would as a heel later on. But yeah, Owen Hart, Bret Hart, and they'll cross paths a couple WrestleManias from this one. It's WrestleMania 10 where they face each other, right? So then 12 minutes and 28 seconds for Hulk Hogan to defeat Sid Justice by disqualification in a match I could not possibly have cared less about. Sid Justice, who had been Sid Vicious when he was in NWA, but you can't copyright that name, obviously. So Sid Justice it is, because WWF has to change your name, so they own the name. So that when you go somewhere else, you can't use the name that they provided for you. I was so tuned out on this feud. I could not possibly have cared less. I was happy for Randy Savage that he got the title shot. I didn't quite understand why Hogan Sid was the match to close out the show, other than it's Hulk Hogan, he has to go on last, because I don't think it was an overly interesting match. And I didn't care about the build. I didn't care about what happened after. And yeah, I mean, we know Sid ends up going to WCW. Hulk ends up going to WCW. We're into 1992. So we are not far from what will be a reset by WWE. But the reset should be evidenced by the card. And it's not as of yet. Shawn Michaels is in the first match. Bret Hart's in the third match. Undertaker's in the second match. These are the three guys who the title will revolve around at one point in the future. And the main event is Hulk Hogan winning by disqualification over Sid Justice. Papa Shango missed his entrance. He was supposed to come in and get involved and cause the disqualification earlier than it happened. And then Papa Shango came in after. And Papa Shango and Sid Justice beating up Hulk Hogan. Okay, sure. All right. I was never a big fan of the Papa Shango character either. I mean, he tried to make it work, but I just didn't. It didn't work for me. So it was a WrestleMania that had some good moments, some really good wrestlers. The world title match between Savage and Flair was pretty good. That was a pretty good match, as was Bret Hart and Roddy Piper. I remember Michaels and Tito being a pretty good match too. Notice those are all the ones that are over 10 minutes long. And Hogan and Sid kind of happened. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe in the event that you may not have done so already. But there's definitely a theme with WrestleManias that, you have a good guy win the last match of the night, and that good guy for the last match of the night pretty often is Hulk Hogan. He is still a huge draw, but there are other wrestlers who are going to be huge draws soon enough. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Hit like and subscribe in the event you may not have done so already. Thank you guys so much for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.